When we get hurt by someone, we often say this: "I was betrayed." When someone we trusted hurts us, that word is usually the first thing that comes to mind. But have you ever stopped to think about it this way? Did that person really betray you? Or did you simply trust them too easily? Many times we judge people by our own standards and build trust within those expectations. And the moment those expectations break, we call it betrayal. But if we look at it a little more deeply, perhaps it isn't really the other person's fault. Maybe it comes from our own lack of understanding, from not seeing that person clearly enough. Sometimes I think about this. When we say we trust someone, perhaps there is also a bit of our own weakness hidden in that word. Of course, it is natural to receive help from others as we live our lives. No one can live completely alone. But if we depend on someone without building our own strength and ability, we may end up living a life that relies on others instead of truly living our own. That is why what matters most is learning to stand on our own feet, becoming someone who can walk forward by themselves. Human beings are not perfect, so forming relationships with others is important. But before that, we may first need the willingness to look at ourselves honestly, to reflect on who we are, and to keep taking small steps toward growth. I once heard an interesting idea. Instead of blindly trusting someone, it may be more realistic to ask, how much do I actually trust this person? Maybe 50%, maybe 70%. In other words, to recognize the degree of trust we place in someone. When I think about this, a well-known proverb comes to mind. Even the axe you trust can strike your own foot. Many people know this saying, but few take the time to think about what it really means. In the past, an axe was a tool people relied on every day. But if the axe slipped or the handle broke, it could easily strike your own foot. So this proverb reminds us that something we trust can sometimes become the very thing that hurts us. In fact, the deepest wounds often come not from strangers, but from the people we trusted. So how should we understand this? Sometimes I wonder if the word trust also carries the possibility that we may one day resent that person. Perhaps that is why when we feel weak or powerless, we tend to say we trust someone. Of course, when we are going through difficult times, it is natural to receive help from others. But before trusting someone completely, maybe it is worth asking ourselves one question. If things don't go the way we hope, will we end up blaming that person? Because in the end, it may have been our own choice. Yet we might still place the blame on someone else. So perhaps, instead of blindly trusting someone, it is wiser to calmly consider how much we truly trust them. Relationships can change. Circumstances change. People's thoughts and paths change. Sometimes disagreements happen, and people eventually go their separate ways. In those moments, instead of blaming the other person, what if we could simply say, perhaps this is where our paths part? If we can see relationships that way, we may be able to view them with a calmer heart. Of course, there may still be some regret, but if we remember the time we shared with gratitude instead of resentment, then that relationship may still have had meaning. Perhaps we were never betrayed at all. Perhaps our expectations were simply broken. So before saying we trust someone, maybe it is worth asking ourselves one question. Am I truly trusting this person, or am I placing my expectations in them?